Hey, good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful middle of the week out there. And we've got a pretty big kind of pattern change going on in the weather here from an active scene back home with a big time cold front that could potentially try to work through. In fact, a couple different cold fronts I'm watching here that could really impact our weather over the next 7 to 10 days. On top of that, the tropics are becoming more active. Now, I will say the tropics, it has been a tough one to figure out the past couple of weeks. In fact, I'd say the whole season it's been kind of a tough one to figure out. And that is no different for the next coming week or two. However, we do finally have a couple areas to watch on the map from the National Hurricane Center, and our ensembles are still picking up on a couple areas for potential development here within the next week or two. So we're going to break all that down for you in today's video. Now, if you're new here and you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications, like the video, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. Also, let me know if you are ready for fall personally. Any longtime viewers will know I'm a big fan of fall, and I'm very ready for it to start here as we kind of start to move through September. And again, I think next week we could get a couple hints of fall. And, the more that we keep saying next week, the closer we're getting to fall. So, we're going to eventually just run out of this summer heat altogether. Although we've got a way to go till we get there. I think with all that said, though, we can go ahead and start here because I do have class to get to here eventually. So we're going to need to get going on this. But anyway, taking a look at the current map in the tropics, again, it is a more active scene than it has been over the past little bit. In fact, there's a couple areas I'm going to circle here. There's really kind of three separate areas we're watching for development. One right here, this is a current area to watch from the National Hurricane Center, and one that overall has gotten, I'd say, a little bit better organized than it was yesterday. Not to the point where I'm expecting development within really any time over the next 48 to 72 hours, but I think as we go into this weekend and into next week rather, we could see some development out of that one. We also have a bigger wave behind it, And that one also has a chance for development, I think. Now, this is probably the most active the main development region has been so far this season, I would say, in terms of healthy-looking waves. Again, a couple days ago we looked out here, it was just kind of a blank space. But right now, again, a couple pretty vibrant-looking waves out there to watch. And again, the models are picking up on both of those. Also, you'll notice it's kind of small, but this cute little area out here just kind of towards the southeast of Bermuda has been designated as an area to watch from the National Hurricane Center. And for, pretty good reason. This one kind of snuck up on people, not one that anyone was really watching. However, there was a bit of a swirl out there that has gained some convection and been able to persist it for long enough that definitely worth watching. Also, the Gulf of Mexico, a lot of shower activity here. Nothing necessarily organized, but something that we'll continue to watch as well. Again, we are getting closer to peak hurricane season here, so really anything on the map is worth watching. Now, again, if we take a look from the National Hurricane Center, this is a map that had nothing on it a couple days ago. Now a couple areas. Again, here's that small one. This one's running a 10% chance of development, so about as low as you can get without it being zero. But again, it was not expected to develop in the first place, so kind of interesting that one got put on the map. And then that first area to watch, again, that'll move towards the Antilles into early next week, and that's something we'll definitely want to keep an eye on for potential impacts. And then nothing for that wave behind it yet, but I do expect probably this afternoon or evening or maybe tomorrow we'll get a third area to watch on the map for that one. And right now, if we take a look at the models, or we'll start with the ensembles at least, because I think that's the best one to look at, or best way to look at this, I should say. It's picking up on both, but the latest GFS ensembles, I will say our first area here, the one that I would say that we kind of hyped up the most yesterday, and when I say hype up, I don't mean, like we're rooting for it or anything, but the one that we said we had the highest chances of development with, is probably come down a little bit since then. Not a lot. It's still on the map. We still have ensembles talking about it, but we're really just not seeing much from the deterministic models that show development here. But again, a still pretty, good clustering of some members here that do suggest this could try to get into the Caribbean and develop over the next 7 to 10 days. But you'll notice that area behind it also getting some love from the ensembles here on the GFS. So those are the two main areas we're watching from our models that are kind of picking up on something. That's the GFS. If we take a look at the European and its ensemble members, also kind of picking up on both, but picking up on this second one a little bit more than the first one. Again, this is probably only about 30% maybe of the ensemble members that developed that first wave, probably closer to 60 to 70% that developed that second wave. So, we're watching it. Definitely, something could happen here, but any impacts to land would still be 7 days or so away, and any impacts to the United States probably wouldn't happen for at least 10 days with either one of these storm systems. So we got plenty of time to monitor it right now. We're keeping a close eye on it. Again, it's that time of the year where you really want to watch these sort of things and kind of see how they evolve. But again, I'll mention, if I go back to it, I do think that this area does look a little bit better than it did yesterday. So we'll see if the models kind of latch onto that and maybe try to do something with it. But again, either way, both of these waves having that potential to develop. Just any sorts of impact to land right now, it's just too early to really know when that would be, or especially what those impacts would be, especially this wave behind it. Again, we don't even know if this is going to be one of those waves that just kind of quickly curves out to sea, or if it kind of tracks a little bit closer to land. Again, just way more questions than answers at this point with both waves. But again, definitely a more active scene than it was, 3 or 4 days ago for sure. All right, let's take a look at some models here. We'll start with the GFS, and this is vorticity at 500 millibars, or just kind of vorticity at the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. So this is not surface-based vorticity. Or actually, I lied. This is 850 millibar vorticity. Sorry, not 500. So this is vorticity. Let me restart that entire process. This is 850 millibar height and relative vorticity. So this just kind of shows us where we're seeing spin, not at the surface, but a little bit above the surface, probably about a kilometer and a half above our head. This gives us a general idea of where we're seeing things try to develop, and I kind of have this just skipped ahead a little bit here. This is into this coming Monday and Tuesday, and I'll go ahead and circle both of our areas at this point. Again, this is the latest GFS operational run. You'll notice here are those two waves that we just mentioned, both of which, though, are relatively weak. The first one especially is still, just kind of an open wave with some relative spin, but not a lot. That first one kind of just dies out on the GFS. It gets into the Caribbean, dies off, really not much left of it. I will mention maybe some of it tries to get going here next week, about a week from today, out here into portions of the Caribbean. But again, not a very strong signal by any means. Now, the one behind it is more impressive. That's more of a closed low, probably closer to tropical storm status. But we bring this ahead, and again, we'll get this out to 10 days, almost even out to 15 days or so. And you'll notice not really impacting much land in that time frame. Just kind of out here trying to get its act together, trying to find some flow. And just really not all that much happening with it. So definitely development is possible, I think, over the next week or two. Impacts to land, probably I'd say lesser than 50% or less than 50% chance of that happening. But it's just too early to really know. Impacts to the United States, again, not seeing anything right now direct impact-wise within the next 7 to 10 days. After that, we'll see. And again, I did show you we had some thunderstorm activity in the Gulf of Mexico, so we'll watch that as well. Models aren't super excited about that right now, but again, you never say never, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the GFS. We'll take a look at the European as well. And this is getting into this Thursday and Friday. Again, here are both of our waves. I'll go ahead and circle them for you. So just kind of follow those general areas on the map, and we'll kind of see what happens. Also, I've completely forgot to mention this area up here that we had with the 10% chance of developing. Even if it does develop, it'll probably be out to sea and won't really bring many impacts to anybody. I forgot to mention that. I don't know why. I kind of just assumed that was something I said, but it wasn't. So we'll move this ahead, though. Again, watch those two areas into the main development region. Both kind of struggle to develop, again, within the next week. This gets us into next Monday afternoon, that first wave moving through the Antilles. Again, just kind of a shell of a wave, not a tropical storm, not a tropical depression, just kind of this open wave that's struggling to get its act together. The one behind it, again, a little bit more organized than the first one, but nothing really to write home about. Now, by the end of this loop, you will note, again, the first one kind of just dies in the Caribbean. The second one does develop probably into some sort of tropical storm by about 10 days from now. But again, it's still way out there in the Atlantic. So just, not really moving very quickly and kind of just meandering on around. Now, we'll take a look at the icon model as well. This is the German model. Sorry, struggling to figure what country this one was from again. But this is 180 hours from now, or about a week. And you'll notice, again, this is the second wave, this is the first wave, and this is an area in the Gulf. So the icon's a little bit more excited, but I'll mention this year so far, the icon has been the one that generally overdoes it a little bit. So we'll see. We'll watch it. It's still a model that we like to look at. But again, even with that first wave in the Caribbean here, I'll circle it again a bunch of times. it's there, but it's weak. In a week from now, it's probably only a tropical storm. The one behind it, again, a little bit stronger, but still way out into the Atlantic, not really impacting anybody directly. And then again, tries to get something going in the Gulf of Mexico here. And I'll quickly go back to, let's see, which ensemble was it? I guess it was the European ensembles. There were a couple members in here, if I can get my head out of the way. There were a couple members that try to get something going in the Gulf, but none of them really do a lot with it. They just kind of show that there could be some low pressure there. Not many of them develop it into anything super strong. So we'll watch the Gulf. Again, we'll watch all these areas, but right now, the tropics remain kind of confusing. I won't say quiet per se, because again, there are areas that we're watching, just not, I guess, nothing really jumping out right now that screams, this is going to impact land in a big way. So that's kind of the latest there on the tropics. And we will keep you up to date. But switching gears a little bit here and talking about what's going on back home. In fact, I skipped way too many maps, sorry. Talking about what's going on back home here. We'll start with our water vapor loop. Just take a look at the jet stream and kind of what's happening. The biggest story on this map I want you to watch is this piece right here. This is a pretty good area of low pressure into the upper levels here. And this is bringing some pretty cold air with it. Now, in front of this low pressure, we are still seeing a little bit of warm air advection. So this afternoon, this could definitely spark some strong to severe storms into the Dakotas and up into portions of the plains of Canada, the southern plains of Canada, I should mention. Also, we do have a little bit of low pressure left over here, kind of with a front kind of sagging this way through the Ohio River Valley. We could see some storms spark off of that front this afternoon. So again, a couple areas of potential severe weather today those are going to be the main stories. But I will mention this first area is going to kind of get on out of here in the next couple of days. That area behind it, though, is going to be the start of a pretty big pattern change here, I think, through the coming days and into our kind of weekend and into next week as well. All right, taking a look at radar imagery here, you'll notice, again, it's a bit of an active scene this morning for some of us. Not everybody by any means, but enough people that will definitely want to talk about it here. So again, we are seeing showers and storms along this kind of frontal boundary. So again, kind of where I have that line drawn, we have a little bit of some air interacting, some cold air to the north, some warm air to the south. General things you see with the front here. And we are seeing some showers this morning because of it. And we could see some storms pop off along this as well this afternoon. Now, I think this afternoon, it's a bit of a conditional threat. So you're going to see when I show you the map, we've got a pretty big area that we're watching. But it's a matter of who's going to see the storms. Now, if storms do form, they could definitely become strong to severe. I think the question just is, will you see any storms at all? Will kind of be the bigger thing that we need to kind of watch out for. So we will definitely keep tabs on that. We'll take a look at the models here in just a second as well. Now, down into the Gulf, we still have kind of a stalled out front here as well, and even a little bit of mid-level spin helping to increase some flow out of the Gulf. So it's been a pretty stormy couple of days into that region for sure, and it will continue to be, I think, over the next couple of days as we continue this same general trend. Also, a little bit of a short wave moving on through the northeast. Some showers this morning through Maine. Same story, obviously, or not same story because this isn't a short wave. This is just a full-blown mid-level cyclone, but mid-level low pressure up into Montana. Sorry, I'm just blanking on states today. Again, and that's the big story maker moving ahead. Now, watches, warnings, advisories, things are relatively calm right now. I know there's a lot of color on the map, but these aren't anything that we can't handle. Again, the orange areas through the Ohio River Valley and the Mid-Atlantic, those are heat advisories, even excessive heat warnings for the Philadelphia metro today. So it's going to be hot. It's been hot. That's not anything too new. I will mention that through these metro areas of the southeast that you're seeing, these kind of gray boxes, again, that are kind of centered just mainly over the cities. You're probably wondering why. Well, these are air quality alerts. So again, we're going to have some ground level ozone conditions today in those regions, and that forms in a couple different ways. But generally, what's happening is we're seeing this big ridge move over this part of the country, and what that does is that warms up the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So all these ground emissions from all these vehicles, trains, planes, and all these other things you see in metro areas, that ozone that's being emitted at the surface is struggling to rise and get up above it because of that very strong ridge in place. So again, leading to some air quality problems today. Other than that, though, again, we did have some fog this morning in a couple areas. That's probably burning off by the time you're watching this. Some red flag conditions through Wyoming and western Nebraska and southwestern South Dakota. But that's basically all we're seeing on that side of things. Now, severe weather today. Again, a couple areas that we're going to need to watch for. One through the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio River Valley. I talked about that. One up into the Dakotas. I also mentioned that one. Now, out of both of these, we're going to see different types of threats. I think up here into the Dakotas, all hazards for sure, straight line winds, large hail, but even a tornado or two is possible. Down here through the Mid-Atlantic region and into the Ohio River Valley, main threat will just be strong straight line winds and some large hail. So, if we do see any tornadoes stay, probably going to be up in the Dakotas more than that kind of longer risk area that you see. So that's the latest there. Let's take a look at some models, and we'll start here with that northern threat and also kind of down here through portions of Missouri, Illinois and Indiana. So watching here for some storm potential and watching here along the Ohio River Valley for some storm potential. Just kind of watch how this evolves throughout this afternoon. So we'll get through this afternoon and evening. Again, you'll notice this is when things really begin to kick off. Now, actually, let me back this up 1 hour. This is about the time the sun is setting local time for you folks. So this is probably 7, 8, 9 o'clock Central Daylight Time. This is when those storms begin to fire up along this kind of frontal boundary here into portions of the Dakotas. Again, strong straight line winds and hail will be the main threat, but an isolated tornado or two is possible, especially along the southern cell. Whatever that most southern point is, we're going to have a little bit more inflow into the storm. Could definitely see more of a tornado potential down through the Ohio River Valley. Again, you'll notice these storms don't look as impressive, but one could definitely get going if it can take advantage of its environment and could definitely produce some strong straight line winds, some downburst potential, and some large hail. Now we get this through the afternoon and evening. Again, this is when the tornado threat will be the highest here. It's kind of hard to see, but notice this kind of kidney bean cell on the south side here. That one has real tornado potential during the evening and overnight there through portions of the Dakotas, through some of those southern counties near the kind of border between our Dakotas. So watching that during the overnight. Again, popcorn storms here will kind of fizzle through the evening and overnight hours into the Ohio River Valley, but our northern storm mode will persist a little bit longer until probably about midnight. It should die off a little bit. So that's the latest there. If we take a look at updraft helicity this afternoon, again, just where we're likely to see rotating storms, not necessarily tornadoes, but rotating storms. Again, some of these storms could rotate up into the Dakotas, especially though I'm watching the southern cell for tornado potential. Should that one develop as the model is hinting that it will, which normally the models do pretty good at that sort of thing, we could definitely see higher end tornado potential with that. So definitely if you're in that part of the Dakotas, or really anywhere, especially North Dakota, but even the northern tier of South Dakota, definitely have a way to get those watches and warnings this evening should things turn severe. Now, the Northeast, again, also having that potential for some severe weather this afternoon and evening. Again, it's going to be a bit of a conditional threat. So you'll notice we get into 2, 3, 4 o'clock. Some storms begin to form back towards the Detroit area. Those could become strong to severe. Strong straight line winds, some large hail will be a concern. Then as we get this into the evening, more storms try to fire along this boundary. But I'll go ahead and caution you now, not everybody will see them today. Philadelphia could get a big time storm and Trenton, New Jersey get nothing. Or, some of the smaller communities in northern New Jersey could get a storm and New York City and Philadelphia could get nothing. It's just one of those days that, again, not everyone will see it, but the people that do definitely could get a pretty good storm out of it with some strong straight line winds, large hail, same general threats have been saying, torrential rainfall, lightning, tornado threat, we'll call it non-zero, just meaning it's pretty unlikely, but you never say never sort of thing. So, again, that moves on through. Some of us will get the rain, some of us won't. And then eventually, by the time we're getting through the overnight, again, just some scattered showers left over from that. Now, this is not the end of it, though. We go into tomorrow another severe weather threat, again, through the northern plains and portions of the Midwest where that first mid-level low pressure is working on through. After that, or I say after that, at the same time, really, a small marginal risk through the Carolinas and Virginia where we could see a couple strong storms here for our Thursday. So a couple different areas we're watching here for Thursday, and then Friday, another marginal risk here through portions of the northern Ohio River Valley and Great Lakes region. So a lot of us going to see some severe weather over the next couple of days. Definitely not something to just kind of write off. And if we take a look at this, kind of zooming out a little bit, latest high resolution rapid refresh model. Again, I'm going to start on this afternoon just to remind you folks, again, Florida through Texas, Louisiana, Biloxi, Mississippi, Mobile, Alabama, this general area, showers and storms are going to be a big theme today. And everywhere else that I did not talk about. So obviously the severe weather places I mentioned for today, everyone else though, a pretty calm day, maybe an afternoon shower or storm, try to get going. Can't rule it out. It's summertime. It's very hot. That's going to be the big theme today with those air quality alerts and excessive heat advisories. Again, nothing too special. Now we get this into Thursday, and remember Thursday afternoon, we've got new threat areas. We've got one over here, and we've got one over here for the potential of severe weather. Main threats, strong straight line winds again, some hail, and a couple tornadoes. But here we go into the afternoon and evening, and I think tomorrow radar is going to look more active than it has probably in a while here across the country east of the Rockies. Again, you'll notice some showers and storms getting going in the mid-Atlantic with, again, a little bit, you'll notice of looks like a bit of a short wave here showing up on the models. Unfortunately, the ISO bar, that's 1024. This one's not telling me what it is. Sorry, I don't know. It's not telling me what the pressure is at that one. But either way, a little bit of a short wave there showing up. And you'll notice that here with kind of some of those extending ISO bars out from, it looks like high pressure. So I guess it'd be a bit of a ridge actually. Yeah, so sorry. Anyway, I'm talking about things that don't matter. I'm just kind of applying in-class things we're learning to the map I'm staring at. But anyway, tomorrow afternoon, sorry, now the whole rest of this video is going to be just nonsense. But tomorrow afternoon, again, map really fills in with precipitation here through Virginia, the DMV, the portions of the mid-Atlantic here could see some strong storms. And then also, notice what's happening back out west. This is really the first cold front of the year, I would say, that is really showing up in such a long manner. Now, most of the cold fronts we've seen so far, we've seen segments of some showers and storms. This one's really going to cross from Canada all the way back down through the southeast. And this is going to be a pretty interesting forecast. Again, some pretty big warm air advection to the north. So a lot of us tomorrow afternoon are going to get back in on that storm chance. Today, it's going to be relatively dry still for most of us. But tomorrow, that's going to change as that front approaches and that warm air advection ensues. But again, severe weather possible with that squall line out to the plains, severe weather possible in the mid-Atlantic, and then that gets us overnight Thursday into Friday. You'll notice rain will still be moving through. This big old line of precipitation isn't just going to die due to the lack of daytime heating. Again, this is really driven by wind and forcing and not so much just afternoon kind of convection. So gonna be an interesting scene on radar the next couple of days as that front tries to work on through. Now, taking a look at the overall pattern here through the next week or two, again, the big culprit for this kind of big squall line of sorts, or I say squall lines, the entire thing will not be a squall line. Segments of it could definitely be, but that big kind of system that works on through, nonetheless, synoptically speaking, again, this mid-level low pressure swinging on through Montana and the Dakotas, the one I pointed out on satellite earlier, that swings on through. And again, due to that troughing here, or that extension of cold air down at the mid-levels here, or really the surface to the mid-levels, I should say, that's going to help to kind of push that front on through. Now, after that, unfortunately for you folks who are wanting cooler weather, this center of cold air kind of pulls off north towards Canada a little bit and out of kind of frame here going towards the weekend. But behind it, another area of troughing develops, scoots down into the northeast. And I think early next week, another big-time storm system, another big-time front could try to swing on through. And then potentially after that, maybe even another one. So the theme for the long run is storm system, storm system, storm system, and I think that'll definitely be interesting to watch unfold through the next week or two. Now, moving this ahead, this is Thursday afternoon, again, kind of where we left off. You'll notice that bigger area of storm activity forming out into the plains, some leftover storms due to the short wave into the mid-Atlantic, and then just some afternoon bubblers here through the southeast and the southern tier of the country from Texas to Florida. Now, that front tries to work on through. Unfortunately for us into the southeast, it's going to kind of die a little bit. It's not going to make it all the way to us, although this is Saturday afternoon. You'll notice, again, a pretty good area of some shower and storm activity through the Ohio River Valley, even the mid-Atlantic and up through the northeast, but through the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, I'm skeptical that this front is going to make it all the way to us. Now, it could get close, but I think it kind of dies off a little bit here, but definitely could try by the time we get into early next week to finally funnel in and maybe bring some of those temperatures down a little bit. After that, we'll see what happens. There have been some signs of maybe, I think, well, let me rephrase that. When I say I don't think the front's going to get to us, I don't think it's going to get to us this weekend. It's probably a better way to word it. Now, by the time we get to next week, I think more of us will feel that cooler air, especially in the Carolinas and Carolinas and North Carolina, as if that's different, especially through the Carolinas, Virginia, and Georgia by middle of next week. I notice this general thing the models have been showing: high pressure over the Northeast. This is a great recipe for some cold air damming. We'll also have to watch for some precipitation to overrun this. It could be really chilly and wet a portion of next week through the middle of the week. That's a very real possibility for sure. And then that holds on for a little while. And then afterwards, way on out there, another big storm system tries to work on through. So that's kind of the latest there. I'm going to load the dew point map because I didn't. I think it's going to be really important to kind of further show where this cold front's going to go now that I've confused everybody enough already. So again, this is getting through this week. You'll notice still muggy, but here comes Thursday. Here's that first front. This begins to work on through the plains. Again, drier, nicer, cooler air on the backside. That's why we're seeing all that precipitation form here over the next couple of days. But we move this further ahead into time, slowly work southeast. This is Saturday afternoon. Again, muggy for most of us that first week of college football, or week one. I won't say first week because technically week 0 happened, but week 1 of college football, it's going to be muggy for a lot of folks. It's going to be kind of wet for others as well. And then we get into Sunday afternoon. That front continues to try to slide southbound here, and eventually gets there. Again, this is Tuesday afternoon. You'll notice a lot of us in the South now getting in on drier air, specifically North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, probably as well, I'd say, through the Ozarks. And that tries to really scoot down with some cold air damming by the time we get into the middle of next week. So you'll notice this pocket of drier air in this region, indicative of some of that CAD. Again, if you're in the southeastern mid-Atlantic, you've heard that plenty. Just some cooler, drier air that gets funneled down the backside of the mountains, but still a little bit muggier through Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, where you're not really getting that influence of the high pressure so much. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, a lot of us, though, are going to see some cooler, nicer air, and even temperature-wise. Again, it's very hot right now. This is this weekend. This weekend. It stays pretty warm. It stays pretty muggy on the backside of that front. Could get some drier air, or excuse me, some cooler air rather, and drier, I guess. But we'll see how far south that gets. You'll notice into next weekend. I really can't talk today. I'm sorry. Into early next week. This is Monday into Tuesday. This is Tuesday morning specifically. Cooler air for many of us in the east as that high pressure works on through. But again, portions of the south will struggle to really cool down, although I think you'll get at least closer to average compared to where we have been. So, all right, now that I'm done breaking everyone's brain, including my own, I'll let you go. Again, have a great rest of your Wednesday out there. Enjoy it. Stay safe. Keep an eye to the sky, and I'll see you all tomorrow.